Of course, Australia is quite well-known wine producing country around the world. We've got some names, we've got some brands, for example. One of the biggest corporation producing wine, holding different wineries like Penfolds and Lindemans, is South Corp Wines, a big organization just looking after the wine business. By the way, not only such organizations looking after the wine business, there are insurance companies like AXA Millesime doing some wine business. Even Coca-Cola is having some wineries in Australia down there. Another brand which is quite well known is BRL Hardy. They have been one of the forerunners in the modern Chardonnay, coming from Australia, just to name a few. And another one I want to mention is the Casella family. Maybe you didn't hear about it, but for sure you drank a wine already. It's the Yellowtail brand going with Casella family. Yellowtail, easy daily enjoyment wine with all varieties like Shiraz, Cabernet, Chardonnay, and so on, you name it. Worldwide distribution, one of the biggest brands beside the Gallo Barefoot brand around the world. Lehmann is part of the Castella family as well. Some quality producers to be mentioned, of course, Henschke, coming from the Barossa Valley, Penfolds, the Grange producer, coming from the Barossa Valley, Peter Lehmann, as well, Barossa Valley. So you see the concentration here. Clare Valley, you remember, the one with the Riesling, beside the Eden Valley I mentioned before. Jim Barry is a quite well-known and high-quality producer in the Clare Valley. To name just one out of Coonawarra for Cabernet Sauvignon and Shiraz, Lindemans. Yeah? You know the label. If you see it just from the really far, you can recognize, it's a Lindemans wine. And this is in general about the labels here in Australia. It's a quite good marketing behind how to do the labels, what to put on the labels to be an eye catcher, for example. And another one I mentioned before, BRL Hardy, coming from Southern Wales country, is producing a huge amount of wine. What I didn't mention before, these guys are producing really, really good wine. There's one tradition, and you can see it on the export figures before, transporting wine in bulk, quality wine in bulk. So they get with flexi tanks like 24,000 liters to the UK, and they do local bottling in the UK, which is good for the CO2 footprint, of course. But in the statistic, it looks like that there's a lot of bulk wine exported. But there's a lot of excellent quality wines exported in a bulk version down there with a huge quality assurance and quality control system behind to guarantee the wine at the end of the day. Yeah, and I talked about the labels briefly. The name of the winery is normally quite dominant on the labels, like Henschke, that's the example I have here. Then the region where it's coming from, or even the sub-region where it's coming from, and the varietal is labeled. Varietal labeling in Australia, there is the law with the 85% rule, like in the European Union, especially if you export this wine to the European Union, you have to be in this range. I don't know if it's really controlled or not. The alcohol level, quite interestingly, we have this 0.5% range in the European Union, so the exported wines have to stick to this one as well. But within Australia, the range is below 14 degrees, of course, is 1.5%. So a wine labeled 13.5 could be up to 15, for example, yeah, or down to 12. This is a quite big range there. I had an example of the Yellowtail wine, easygoing. The jumping kangaroo on the label shows you, okay, it's an easy, tiny, winey, nice to drink everyday wine, for example, like a pasta or pizza wine you can enjoy. And if you know other varieties as well from this Yellowtail, it's always the same label, so you can really recognize. Margaret River, I mentioned to you before, the Bordeaux-like region. I've got a label as an example here. It's not the Chateau, which is on the label, but it's quite limited, yeah, in the sense of not too much information. You know, all the technical stuff has to be there, like the alcohol levels, the volume filled in the bottle, for example. Some story. There's always a storytelling on bottles of Australian wine. is on the back label. We call it the technical label. Yeah, this one is the nice looking label in front. In German it's called Schmuck etiquette. Yeah, so it's in the front of the bottle, just showing the wild berry estate, in this case the winery, the wine itself, the region, Margaret River, variety Shiraz, and 2004 as a vintage. As said before, 85% for all of them. And if it's a blend and you name the varieties have to be named in the order of importance in this wine. Yeah, the last specific thing I want to mention in Australia is a naming culture called bin. You see it on almost every label from Penfolds, for example, and some other wine producers like Lindemans. BIN stands for Batch Identification Number, meaning a batch, it's a storage place in the cellar. And the very first wine of Penfolds was really, really good wine, had a special storage place. And this storage place is called bin. It was the bin number 2, yeah? And therefore they put this naming on the label. It's a bin 2 wine. And this stayed on. So the bin is kind of a quality assurance. You're talking about a high quality wine which is treated specifically, yeah, on a high quality level, and it's something special, not coming out of the mass, but actually it's the place where you have to search for in the cellar to find your wine with the bin number 2. Okay. A trader is existing as well, called Odd Bins. Yeah, so meaning there is no specific location. They've got everything, and just Google it. Okay, they have now got new owners again, but Google it. They have a huge range of wines, and they are like a big seller with a, yeah, quite chaos way of organizing the wines, but it's really interesting to go there, buy there. I can just encourage you, go there and do it. Yeah. Thanks a lot for listening. This was, in a nutshell, I want to talk about Australia to you. I hope you enjoyed it, and good luck. Thank you. Bye-bye.